Hello, Linda.
Hello, happy Thursday. Woo.
One more day of the weekend.
Yay.
Wait,
What's
it
a
seems
week?
like we're just here, right?
What's a weekend?
That's a great
Right?
question. That's a great question. Well, we are here for another week of doing questions straight out of the group, which I love doing it this way. We, of course, are grateful to have people watching both inside of Zoom. Feel free to send us more questions, stump us, do all that type of stuff. And of course, if you're watching this live or if you're watching it as a replay, do the good old, tell us where you're watching it from now if you're live on Facebook, and then hashtag replay if it's on the replay.
Yeah.
That's my French accent. How did that sound?
Not too French. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay. Anyways, so how was your week as I get this set up with the slide deck? Anything exciting?
Week's been busy, as usual, but kind of like, I think I was talking to you about it last night. I almost feel like it's been a week of, I have too many loose ends and I feel like you know how you felt in like in busy tax season, like you've got these things and you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, did I do that? Did I put it on a list? I probably should have a list. I don't have a list.
Creating a list is on my list of things to do.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's exactly it. But I just feel like I should be a little better with it. And I know I'm forgetting something.
Yeah. Well, you know, who's got good apps out there for different list creating things for all of this?
Yeah. Seth has like 50 million lists for, doesn't he? For all the things he's
Yeah.
got like Dyna list and I don't know, there's a lot of lists out there. So
So we are going to pull up our little slide deck here. I'm going to be showing the wrong thing probably first. Let's go. Boom. Hey, I got it right the first time. So, for our questions today, I probably should put this one a little bit farther in, right? Because it's
yeah,
a
this one
bit
kind
of
of
a
got me stumped.
challenging one. So Robin says we all have a bit of PTSD, if not a lot.
She's right.
A big airplane. Hold on a second here. Um, so, Ernest's question was, my question for your next webinar is this: can you show me a report in QBO, not advanced, that gives profitability for an item? Profitability for an item. Um,
A report like that in QuickBooks Desktop. I remember that. So I'm thinking that it's maybe what he's thinking. I looked for, because it's not called items, it's called products. And I tried to make one in our fake file that had two-sided, so it had the vendor side and the deposit side. So I put one in for a customer and a bill in for the customer, but it didn't give you, the report in desktop that has like the,
yeah, I'm actually getting QuickBooks pulled up on my other screen to try to slide it over in just a second. I
no.
thought so. Of course, first and foremost, for this to be able to be done, it would have to have both cost and retail pricing inside of it, which
Yep.
means you'd have to assign the purchase, decide, description, all that type of information, right?
Yes.
And then I thought there was a.
I thought there was too, but I couldn't find it.
So I am almost there, and then I will take a look at it. So you were saying.
All right. So in the QB Community Live file that we have, I made one invoice that has, I think his name was Eric somebody, and I made it Eric Luthier or Luth, something like that. And I made an item that had two sides. So it had the side that you would sell to your client and the side that you purchased it. And I couldn't think of a report that would work for that. And I made it for today's date. So if you try to find a report, it will pull up, but I couldn't. I tried.
So, what I'm starting with, and this may not end up where we want to be at, but hey, we got fake data. We'll give it a try. Show at least the customization of reports. So, start off with the sales by product service detail was my thought right off. Because the detail report gives us the ability to add extra columns on and
I didn't even think of that.
filtering wise, but I'm not seeing. I was looking for profitability, is what I really want. So I don't see it here. Do, do, do,
I
do.
don't know if it's even in advanced, is it? I know advanced has so many more reports. Advanced has like 100+ reports, and that's not counting Fathom. And this has like 65+ reports. So use the word plus because you can make them, whatever you want. Donna Crawley says, hi, happy Thursday.
Well, so anybody watching have any suggestions, feel free to put in the chat as well. What we're looking for is a report to show Ernest of how we could do profitability, basically, right? So,
Yeah, he wants to see.
Gosh, I don't think we can do. What if we did if it was a specific item, if we went to the item and did a custom report off of that, maybe?
That's what I was looking for, but run it right off the item list? Maybe.
Yes. What was the item you did? Do you remember?
Yeah, widget number 2.
Oh, you did this.
Or maybe I'm in the other file because I know we have a couple of QB community files. I think I was in. If this is the vendor sync one, I wasn't in this one. Just try widget. Your mom wants to know if you got to see the National Guard flybys this afternoon. He's had his head buried in Zoom, I think.
I don't even, yeah. Anything.
Who, somebody took a picture of it. I think it was Brandy did. I saw pictures of it. Went over to Texas, or maybe even Barabi.
All right, I'm just going to go with something. So we've got bathroom vanity here, right? Yes, I'm in advanced, but it'd be the same concept at the moment. So run report. Okay, here we would now have the ability, so we'd be able to pull a report on the specific item, rate amount. Let's go customize. Let's go change columns.
Robin says she likes that your mom is here. We do too.
I'm just bummed I didn't get to go see her for Mother's Day.
I know.
To redo that.
I didn't get to see my mom either.
Well, Ernest, thank you, buddy. You stumped me. And that's it for the show today. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. No. Everybody that's here, go into feedback and ask for that report because I know it's a desktop report. They're looking to add reports. So.
Yes. All right. So here's another one. I've got one. QBO Advanced User Multi-State Sales. Gross. Okay. Actually, so this one could be done. The way I would go, there's a couple ways that this could be done. Donna, we were trying to solve for a report in QuickBooks Online that would actually show product profitability. And I wasn't seeing how we could do it. I'm going off the assumption that we are not allowed to try to do any customization through Excel or anything else was the other one. So directly inside of this QBO, I don't see that we could do that part. And let's see here, chat, what do we got going on there?
Yeah, James said, when's the next contractor focus meeting?
James, thank you for asking that. Tanya and I were supposed to have already done it. I had to delay because we've been so darn busy with that thing that comes between O and Q times 3. So it's been a little bit tougher, but I will talk with Tanya and we can try to get that going faster. Of course, if you have a question, you can ask it here too, and we can try to help there as well. So onto this one for Angie, the way that I would go about this is by using a custom field. We would have the ability, we could come in, grab the right one here. We could create a custom field now that you can do custom fields up to 99 items. And yeah, that means you're going to actually have to create the different states in here. So if we go add field, we would do, if we go to, what do we do? If we go customer info, we can actually do it for both this way. So use on sales forms, show the customer. We would do a drop down.
Yes, Angie's on here now. And Angie, I got to talk to today, and I did not make her make you have a really hard question. This was all her idea.
It's actually a pretty cool one. So we're just going to pretend. California. Can't spell my own city or state now. Florida. And we'll go one more, and we'll pretend we only have 3 states. So by going through, adding all of these in, you could just do the 2 initials as well if you wanted to make it a little bit easier. Have those saved in. If we want it on the invoice, so boom. Now when I go and create an invoice, I can use that custom field on any of them. And actually, more importantly, I should say, if you go to customer, right,
Mhm.
you'll be able to choose any customer or go edit. And if you set the custom fields ahead of time, it's tracking me. We'd see the state, California. Now, what this will do is every time I create an invoice under this, it will automatically fill that in for me also.
Refills it, yeah.
So new invoice going. Super speed.
FOMO wants to know, why doesn't custom fields for vendors information not show up in any reports? Wait, everybody's on fire today.
Well, no, that one's not stumping
I
me.
know.
I know the answer to that one, but I don't want to say it. So, interesting. So they added the custom fields, but they didn't add it to reporting yet. Let's take a look at that. So I think that this will have helped answer this. Basically, if we then had our invoices in, what we would do, of course, is come in, do a report, and we could do, let's see here, sales by customer, let's see here, sales by customer summary. Then if we go customize, we should be, actually, I'm sorry, it's got to be detail so we can get the
detail. Yeah, I was gonna say you have to do the detail report.
Yeah. I didn't want to get all the line items, but
I know.
Well, actually, that's a good way to do it because you may have non-taxable stuff if you need to also look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Sales by customer detail. Customer, where's that? Boom, customize. Now we've got the ability, we can come in, we can choose our custom field. We'll go look at the vendor side in a moment also. Mm-hmm. And where did our state go? So state would be here.
There you go.
Now, I don't actually have anything in state, so I'm going to also real quickly go region just to pretend. Mm-hmm. And then we could structure or change this however be necessary. So if we wanted to do we have tax on this one? We do a different one for the sales tax side of it. But let's go run report. Now let's go all dates for the heck of it. And I would group it by state. So I know we don't have anything in state, so we're going to go by region just to pretend the same way. So now the regions, again, pretending that was actually a state, you could then see what the total amount would be. We could play with other reporting to, break this out differently. You could do a general ledger report also if you needed to try to get more breakout of what the quantity, price, tax amount is to really get all of that information, and then do the same kind of filtering onto it. Right. And then on the vendor side, so if we were to be, you wanted to see like why we don't on like purchases, I guess is what we were talking about. Is that right?
She just said, why doesn't custom fields for vendors information not show up on any report?
Okay, if we did let's try this. So go transaction list by vendor, customize. We should be able to see columns, custom fields. They haven't updated the reporting on that one, it looks like. So what this tells me is Hector and I did this big old sheet a while back.
Yeah, it's a good sheet.
Yeah, we need to update this on the vendor side as well, because they've just been adding that part on, and I would need to test it by I haven't really used them on the vendor side very much. Mm-hmm. But I do know that like if you start with a custom field at the estimate level, the estimate can then turn into a purchase order, which would then link to a bill, right? As well as estimate goes to an invoice. So you can do this Y and use the same custom field in the same place. I actually Hector hit me up with a challenge because he did a really good video using he did a great video showing how you could figure out what bills were ready to be paid or not using custom fields as a dropdown. So it has to be able to.
Okay.
So I'm certain we can, and I can reach back out and show you how that was done. I'm going to do a video. He challenged me. My version is going to be using custom fields to create your own project phases. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, be able to tag that on all of your different expenses, everything else, so you can break down by phase also the project costing.
That's a good idea. And what time did he challenge this to
2 days ago. That's why I'm actually announcing it now. So if he goes and does it, I actually.
No, what time of day?
My time or his time?
No, his time.
It was early in the morning.
Yeah, I know.
So this sheet, what I will do is grab the URL for this though, and we can share it with everybody also.
It should. Ufoma says it doesn't show in the vendor contact list. Oh, she's looking for it like in the customer. Yeah, they don't have that. Maybe someday. I mean, they keep changing advanced, so.
Yeah, so exactly. So what you're talking about is the ability to come in and actually see them over here, add it on, right?
Probably more like if you edited it too, like if you how you edit the customer and you have that little secret spot, they don't have that here. Like desktop had.
That's because on the vendor side, when you're doing this stuff, it's all transaction based.
True.
Hey, actually, add custom.
We got bills though. Oh, there you go. There's your secret spot.
So it absolutely can. I went into the vendor, went to edit it, and now it has this add.
Same place, right?
Yep. So use on POs, show to vendor, use on other expense forms, which.
Yay, you found it.
Yep. So that can be done.
But does it show on a report if you made it?
Well, let's try one. So let's do ref number. I don't know. Sounds good. And we'll go text because we want something else onto it. And we'll go save. So let's go edit.
It only shows on the vendor center list. Oh, it only shows on the vendor center list and not on reports like the customer type.
We go save. Now Basecamp, we're going to go new. Let's go.
Do some kind of detail report.
I'm going to do a purchase order first. Need my toilets. Okay, we've got so here's the project phase showing what I was doing before. Here's my reference number. It goes there. We've got this all in. Now let's go save and close. And I could have actually just saved it and then done the other. So that was my toilet right here, right? I should have hit this and gone copy to bill. So now that it's copying to a bill, reference number still here, which is great. Okay, so it transferred over for us. Boom, boom. Good to go. Same date. Save and close. How come he's not watching right now? He should be in the now, so bill pay online. Yay. Okay, so now let's go to our reports. Thank you. You're making it easier for me to figure out doing my video later. So was there a specific report that was necessary or just
a special report? I mean, just go to some detail report, I guess, purchased by whatever vendor detail.
Okay, so now we've got here, we should actually be able to see. Yeah, she's right.
Bummer.
Nope. Boom.
Nope.
Yes. And then filter. Cannot filter by that yet, but that's okay. Run report.
New
number.
But it's blank. That's like desktop days too. I remember that being an issue.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, so I've got a meeting tomorrow with the team that does this stuff. So I will actually draw this to their attention as well. So good catch. Very good catch. We should have also been able to filter by it, which it was not on there also.
Right.
The vendor contact.
Vendor contact list report. Do the vendor, it'll show up on the vendor contact list report.
What am I looking for? So customize, change columns. You would be correct on that. Well, doesn't look like they coded that yet. Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Weird.
it would be nice there, and then the other area, which I won't go into a tangent about, um, all of this
Nope.
stuff, but it would be great to have like batch action capability, right, for this,
Hmm.
to update people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Big time. Definitely would be necessary. Now, if I go custom field here, though, can I now see, here's my reference number, which is cool. So on the expense, you can now,
See it there. You can export that report, right?
yes. And so what's also cool is check this out, purchase order, bill. Now we
Export
actually
it.
have a nice way to link these and
Hmm.
reference this back together. And then what happens if I do this? Are we going to have, no, I didn't think so. Okay.
But over there, you could export it right to Excel.
Yes. Yeah, I was hoping we'd be able to batch.
I
Uh,
know, I know.
Now, can you filter by? No.
She also needs the ability to batch apply to people like the customer type one. So she wants it basically to be like, that would be perfect.
Can show you that one. Here's a secret on that. So if it doesn't work to projects, doesn't work to projects, unfortunately. However, if you come in and you check off different ones here, go to batch. Oh, there's only a customer type. Dang it. That's it. You can't do it there either.
Okay, maybe the next question we can answer and get. Angie stumped you. Oh, what kind? You got Angie's pretty much done.
Well, I like it. I mean, you know what? I mean, I love it when we have to try out and get stumped.
Yeah. So Matthew Fulton, can you tell your writer friends to add the gross receipts to the sales tax tab in QBO? That would make. I had nothing to do with these questions, by the way. That would make filing sales tax so much easier.
My advice is just stay away from sales. No. Okay. So add the gross receipts to the sales tax tab in QBO. Yeah. It would also be great on the sales tax having you can't easily run a report. I figured the reason you're asking about the different states, it was also so you could try to figure out like what you would be doing for sales tax. You can't run a very easy report by city, by county, by any of that type of stuff for sales tax reporting at all in QBO. It's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I will send them a link to this video. They're not going to like me very much. How do I record a transaction that is paid to a 1099 outside labor person, but the expense is for a rental house repair? If I put it as 1099, then it doesn't reflect on the house expense. But if I put it, interesting. Okay, so what you can actually do is when you're, you know, are you familiar with this one, Linda? Or
yeah, well, actually, if it's a subcontractor and they are doing the work, I run into this every year. You don't have to, if they're buying stuff, it's part of their job. They write it off on their end. You're not having to separate their costs because the whole job is what it is. So the subcontractor, if you hire a subcontractor, you don't generally break it out by materials. Their materials part of their work that they're doing. That's how I look at it.
workers' comp.
Well, it doesn't. That's their job to get their own workers' comp. They're a subcontractor.
But if you don't have the certificates of insurance,
No, well, that's not my problem. You're supposed to get those. No ticky, no shirty.
Oh, I love it. Now, here's another possibility to that, though. So when you're going through and you're actually doing the whole 1099 blah, blah, blah stuff, what you can do is when I prepare 1099s, you map out which accounts go to what, right? So if you come in non-employee compensation, you can actually check off multiple accounts. So you would have subcontractor, you still have to review it. So maybe if it's really like, if you did it, maybe you do a sub account if you need to under the, I think it was under rent or the, what I'm trying to say here, right? From that question. So
I just, I have this happen all the time when the people say, well, he had to buy his materials. And I'm like, well, you paid him for the work. You can't, if he paid his materials, he can't take the expense there and then deduct it off of that. It doesn't work. You can't take it twice as a subcontractor.
Okay, but so outside labor, but she's not talking about like materials versus labor. She's just talking about, hey, I've got to pay George for work he did, whether it's all combined together. What it is if it's a rental house repair, because you either put it into subcontractor and you got it that way, or if it's under rental house repair, I'm assuming this is for probably like property management type situation. If I'm correct on that, you would maybe do a sub account under your rental house repair that you could then map to the 1099 screen. And the reason for that is you don't have to process everything through QuickBooks 1099, but it will add up totals and you can get report off of it that way. So if I came in and I chose just some random sub account, right? So do I have sub accounts in here? Yeah. We're just gonna pretend it was this, right? So if I'm choosing multiple ones, then what happens is you go through this, you've got your rent there, you go next. That's where this comes through and you'll find out what you're missing. Go next, and it gets you the totals. And then if you print this information sheet, this is what you would know you would be looking for in regards to doing the year-end 1099s and subcontracting. I think that's kind of where they were trying to go, I hope.
Okay. I was thinking that it's just like, you hire the handyman to work in the place, and it's for you, it's repairs and maintenance for your client, but then the handyman's a 1099, but whatever the bill is what you have to charge him back on the 1099. You don't get to deduct parts of it because he paid money out of his own business for parts. You can't, if he has to pay the 1099s on the whole thing. That's his job to take the expenses off. And then, on his tax return, he has income, he has expenses. That's how I looked at it.
Okay. So hopefully that works well. All right.
I had to put this one in because Joanne asked a question and I figured you had some fancy dancy way with commissions and vendors. And I know with Advanced, we can do a lot with custom fields, but.
All right. I have a client who receives commissions from a vendor for purchases made by my client's customer. We have the same thing, interior designer, where basically they get a kickback, by suggesting they buy their fridges from a certain company, right? We want to track the commission income according to customer. The only way I see to add the customer to a bank deposit, this I would actually do this under a project. Like if hopefully you're using projects to track the customers, because then you could tag the deposit towards it that way. So let's see here, finish the thing. The bank deposit is to check the track returns to customers box, which allows the income to be tracked on a P&L by customer. Am I causing any unintended consequences? Is there a better way to do this? So the nice thing about doing it the way you're talking about is you still have the ability to hit whatever account you want without a challenge. So that would not cause any challenge that I can see. Now, of course, I should see if Tanya says anything. I would use classes instead. So the concept being in if it's, so by having the account, hitting the account to commissions earned would be it is an income account at that point, right? But then tagging the customer project, you would then be able to see under the project a higher profitability for that customer. But you would also have it hit the appropriate account on your
income account.
Exactly. So hopefully that seems like a good answer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Happy Hump Day. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know of any internal control manuals, but I didn't know if you did.
So So looks like Laura gave a great suggestion.
Gave her an
Sounds like
idea, yeah.
you're trying to make one. This is where using screenshot software of some sort is always great. The ones that I've used in the past, and I love them, don't exist anymore.
Back in your day?
Back in my day. There's a company called Stepshots, which does something like that. I thought, what's the video editing software we were just talking about that you use?
Oh, Camtasia?
Doesn't Camtasia have Snagit? Can't Snagit do something where you're doing screenshots and then?
It might in Windows, but it doesn't in my Mac.
Okay. So I can show you something I used, which doesn't exist, but to give you an idea, and maybe it's a search term that can help you going forward. If I can find it here. Here we go. It was called Clarify It, and they make a higher end version of this now, which just got more expensive, but it was a really cool piece. I know there's other versions of something like this out there. So once it opens up, it gives me the ability that I can go through and take a snapshot, screenshot of something, and then I can add text on very nicely below it. So it looks nice and clean, export it to a PDF, go to a web page with it, whatever I'd like. So now you can start to create like these user guide templates. And if you start off as like default one way, geez, I wonder why it's so slow. So many.
It said it's being discontinued. I just looked it up on the web. Clarify is being discontinued.
That's why I started.
You can download it still.
No, you can't really.
No. Okay.
No. So I think here is an example that'll be pulling up here. It's also what I use to take screenshots of whenever I'm taking the certification tests. So like this was a guide I was showing. I didn't even remember I had this. Upgrading to QuickBooks Desktop from QuickBooks Online. I should be able to go view.
Oh, can you do one the other way around? A guide?
Yeah. So let's go document. Basically what happens is you go through this, you put titles into it. Each one of these is a different screenshot. I can add additional notes in right below. So select export data. And we keep adding on. You can format the stuff. And then when this is all said and done, you can export this to a PDF, which makes it look really, really nice, of course.
And they don't make it anymore.
Well, but they make, so there's other companies like this is the whole point as well. So Stepshots is a company that does this. And then if you use those two as like search terms, I'm sure you can find something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So it'll go like that. That's why I keep this though. I mean, I love it. It's a great little program. All right. And then the next one we've got, once this pops up here, I like it because the hyperlinks work. I also do that stuff. I like to build that stuff usually in PowerPoint just because you can turn it into a PDF or just in a Word document too. You can organize it all and just have your screenshot thing that you just pop the images into if you want also. So our next one was, all right. I have a section on my payroll summary report with historical checks in it. I can't click on it to see what is there. Does anyone know how that gets there? Yes. So that is because you converted your payroll over from something else mid-year. And because they don't go in and tag in each individual check, you only get historical transaction information, which is a really, really big bummer when you're going to do your workers' comp audits or PPP stuff or anything.
Oh, you said that word.
That's basically what that means. Where's my boom? So that is what that means. It's because they did historical data entry. We really try not to have to do that if we don't have to. We prefer it all to be in like splitting halfway through the year is tough unless you really need to.
It's the best time is a year end, right? Calendar year, get the new start new. But Sometimes you just have to, you want to switch.
Yeah.
Always recommend at the end of the year though, but
So what we would actually generally we've done in the past is, depending on how big the company is and how much time and energy you want to put towards it, you could actually go in and you start off with the pay date all the way at the beginning of the year, and you literally key in, put all the employees in, key everything in as each hours for each pay period. Put all the checks as if you're going to do your own payments manually. And if you go through and basically you rebuild payroll that way, that's the only way that you can get historical data in that would still pull up from reports, based on the concept that you're using QuickBooks Online Payroll or this type of stuff.
Donna Curley said you can run a payroll details report, and that will work if they're in QuickBooks Payroll. Not the historical, but if you can't pull up the checks. Oh, they don't link back, do they?
No, because so the difficulty there again is because they're going to summarize everything by quarter. All they care about at that point is, and this is based on the assumption that we're not the ones that are manually taking the time to put that stuff in. So they're going to summarize everything to 941, to the quarterlies. If there may be, at that point, they may have a little bit in there, but not the whole thing. So yeah, even the payroll detail wouldn't be there unless you somehow convince them to go through and actually do it one by one by one by one by one. Nice thing about doing it yourself, it takes more time, but then you can also, even the payments to taxes, right? You would only see the historical unless you're going in and tagging each payment, even if it's you tag it as made it yourself. There you still get to see that whole breakout, which again, that letter between O and Q.
Yeah, it's gonna, right. I mean, well, yeah, it's gonna be hard. And like you said, workers' comp audits, they're always different. They're not the calendar year for the most part. I have one guy that's thought it's the best, but the rest of them aren't. And that always makes it a little bit more, adds a layer of difficulty to it because of the, the tax reporting and everything that you have to pull up. This was just kind of weird one. It's simple, but it's something that people maybe don't know. If you don't have QuickBooks Online accountant, you can't undo a bank rec, and somebody does something like this where they deleted 2 checks that were reconciled, you can put them back in, go to your audit log, see what they are, and then you can force the reconciliation to put them back.
Yeah, but then you still have on the little side there, like,
you can reconcile them again with the next month too, and just disregard the beginning balance and just reconcile them. That's another way to do it. I know it freaks people out when they don't see the beginning balance right, but if it's off by $1,000, but.
Well, so what you're saying is 100% correct, right? What drives me nuts.
I know it drives you crazy because it drives me the ugly reconciliation report with all the
like adjustments, or if it's got changes in there.
I hate it. I undo it and do it over.
Yes. Now the key is, if you're gonna do that, take a screenshot of this list.
Yeah.
Because you have literally ending date, ending balance of what it's supposed to be. So if you had to go back a whole year and reconcile all of them because somebody in January took 2 checks out and you don't want there to be changes through all this stuff, by taking that screenshot, it's a way that if those are the only changes, you can literally undo all the reconciliations, go to the first month you had left, find out what the date was and the amount, click it in, and it should like almost instantly just wreck right away.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
No
but if you don't have accountant version and you can't undo and you have to manually undo, I would just just re-enter them and then either do it in the next reconciliation. Because we have a lot of members that are small businesses that might just have regular QuickBooks, Plus or whatever. You don't want to get involved and start to unreconcile. That's crazy because I've seen people try to do that. It's never worked out very well if they have a lot of transactions.
So what we're talking about there for people that would be watching that is, again, under the accountant's version, you can go back, review reconciliations, click undo, and it would undo all those reconciliations. So if I come here, I'm going to go undo, patch undo, hold this, don't do this, right?
Yeah. The warning.
And then you would say yes. And I'm going to say undo the batch. So it does both of them all at once. Boom. Now I would have to go back in and I'd have to start my whole reconciliation process all over again. Right. However, Linda says that if you need assistance with that, feel free to call her.
Call Matthew Fulton at 805 or 905, whatever it is, 805. No, email him. Sorry, email him. He loves email.
All right. So, yeah, that is a key thing. Keep in mind if you're in your reconciliation windows. So I'm going to say ending balance, boom. Let's go today just to try to make it. I better go 19. It'd be huge. Let's say you're in here, right? And you're starting to go through, try to reconcile something, and there's a duplicate or there's something that shouldn't be there. Like, so these ones came through a bank feed because we can see that, right? This one was something different. So if I click on this one, I come in, edit, and delete this, if I delete it that way, that goes away. It's gone, right? But if you do the same thing to something that's been through a bank feed, right? Like here, if I delete that, that goes back to the bank feed area. So sometimes what happens, and the reason I'm showing it is if you have people that instead of matching, they're auto adding. If they have that auto add function on, it just auto add stuff in. And
it's just circle. Yeah. But I had a conversation with one of our members this week, and she was talking to some of her colleagues, and she's a regular business owner. And she was talking about how she thought because she had bank feeds downloaded, she didn't have to reconcile. Why do I have to reconcile? The bank feed says it's right. So she never reconciled the bank account. And someone ended up telling her that. So she went all the way back to 2017 to re-reconcile everything. And she found that some of the bank feeds were duplicates. And she had duplicate entries of expenses in 2017 that shouldn't have been there. And that's why you want to reconcile, because bank feeds aren't perfect, for sure. I've seen them come in the opposite way too, where they came in as deposits when they were really expenses on one of the banks here. So yeah, you want to make sure you reconcile. It's important to reconcile.
Always remember the goal is we want to be matching as much as we can, as much as we can. So if there's bills going in, it should be matching. It's all about the workflow of which one hits first. Otherwise, the rules, I firmly believe you should just be reviewing them and then accepting them, because it doesn't take that much time to do that. That auto add is just trouble.
Oh, I don't ever really use that too much. And also it makes it easier, especially with credit cards, because you know how you put the date range in and not all the credit card transactions will clear, and you can sort by that cleared column. It just makes it easier to go through and do it real quickly, especially if you have a lot of transactions that you have to process, which some people have a lot of transactions to process.
Yep. Well, on that, wishing to be respectful of time-wise, we always try to be careful with this. I know we went through a lot of questions quickly. Hopefully they were helpful. If not, go back, watch it again.
If not, ask more. Stump Matthew.
And so actually, what I will do is I'm going to show everybody where I can pull this link.
Oh yeah, with a question box. That's a good idea. They can submit.
So we set up a Google form a while back. I'm going to share my screen again here. That basically gives people the ability to either suggest ideas for us or ask questions. And it's in the link for this, as well as inside of the events for QB Community Live. It's a bit.ly, it's QBCL request. We can add it into the comments again. But you'd go through, just add in. It's got a little bit of conditional logic to make it super simple, as suggest a topic or provide a question. So if you've got an idea for one or the other, please feel free. We want them. We would love to hear what is stumping people. We'll always do our best to try to show you a way, but I'm not afraid to be stumped. It's okay.
No, it's good. And especially, if you have an idea for the product that you'd like to see in, always use feedback. They really do look at feedback into it does. And some of the product things you might see, I remember one way back in my day, I remember putting something in, and like a little bit later it came out. I thought, oh my God, I put that into feedback, and it came into the product. Now, maybe it was me and 10,000 other people, but I felt like I had something to do with it.
Exactly. On that note, I hope everybody has an awesome rest of their day, and here's wishing you all a very successful week.
Bye now.